Hey guys, before I start reading the next chapter, I want to say thank you guys for the support I've been getting for the past several months while I've been on hiatus. That's only because I started my first year at college, because you guys would know I started community college to get my associate's degree, and I did. But starting at college, it was more of a challenge, I would say, because the more demand you get, the extra work I had to put in. I had to take several night classes for this, and sometimes I would have to stay there by midnight just to get the credits in and some extra credit I need to put in. But thank you guys so much for the support by watching my videos, subscribing to my channel, and making sure I'm alive or something, because that's what it felt like. And because of your support, I got 100 subscribers as of December 1st. And let me see, I want to give a shout out to my 100 subscriber. If this page doesn't take forever. There we go. Emily Aldrich. Thank you so much for being my 100 subscriber. I don't know if I said your name right at all, but thank you so much for being my 100 subscriber throughout this whole thing. And also, I will keep on reading, but hopefully I can do a little more as next semester comes, because I have 4 classes and they're all really challenging with being an education major, because where I'm from, that is a demanding field for it, and you have to take a test alone just get into the program, and I've taken it 5 times already. In January I'll take it the 5th time. But again, thank you so much for subscribing, watching my videos, making sure I will still do the videos. And with that, let's begin. We'll go back to chapter 9, The Abandoned Trip. Connor spent his last 2 days in Germany locked in his hotel pretending to be sick, while his principal and schoolmates went to museums and historical landmarks. He worked around the clock trying to contact his sister. He lived off sandwiches and sodas from a vending machine down the hall and 20-minute naps when he needed them. He had never been so angry with his sister before in his life. He knew Alex was busy prepping for the very inaugural ball, but it couldn't have been going on for all the past 3 days. When he finally got a hold of her, if he ever got a hold of her, she better have a good reason why she had been ignoring him. Unfortunately, the day of their departure finally came, and Connor had no choice but to travel home with the others. He regretted leaving. Somehow being close to the grave sites of the brothers Grimm made him feel closer to the issue. Their group loaded to the van and said goodbye to Berlin as they drove to the airport. Once they arrived to the airport, Connor wouldn't let the woman behind the counter check Betsy. His piece of magic mirror was inside, and he didn't want to be away from it in case Alex tried contacting him. His unexpected clinginess to the suitcase didn't go unnoticed. Everyone in his group raised an eyebrow, but no one's eyebrow rose higher than Bree's. She was carefully watching every move he made. He landed in London's Heathrow Airport and found seats in the gate for their connecting flight home. Oi, governor, said Sydney in a horrible Cockney accent to all the British people that passed him by. Let's say hello there, she whispered. The other, like she was filling them in a secret. No, it's not, Bree said, embarrassed for her. The book huggers had been giving Connor dirty looks ever since they left Berlin, but Connor was unaware of it. He had been staring off into space the entire time, clutching Betsy into his chest as he were expecting someone to rip the suitcase out of his hands. How are you feeling, Mr. Bailey? Mrs. Peters asked him as she read a newspaper. Better, Connor said without looking up. I'm sorry you missed out on all the other activities. You would have enjoyed them, his principal said. Next time, was all Connor could reply. The gate's intercom buzzed as an announcement was made. Attention all travelers leaving on International Flight 527. We will be boarding the plane in 10 minutes, starting with our first-class passengers. Ooh, wonderful, Mrs. Peters said, and folded up her newspaper. We'll be in the air on our way home in no time." Connor knew it would be difficult to use the piece of magic mirror once he was on the plane. He decided to try reaching Alex one more time before boarding. "I'm going to use the restroom before we get on the plane," Connor announced to the girls. He hurried across the waiting area nearest the bathroom with Betsy in his arms. The book huggers rolled their eyes at Connor just like every time he said or done anything in the trip. Bree watched Connor as he went, curious about why he needed his suitcase to use the restroom. Connor entered the men's room, looked under all the stalls, and made sure he was alone. He locked himself inside one, put the toilet lid down, and had a seat. He opened Betsy on the floor in front of him and retrieved the piece of mirror. He pressed the glass with his finger and watched it simmer for a few moments but had no luck reaching Alex. He was so frustrated and disappointed. However, doubtful he was about getting a different result. Connors decided to tap the glass one more time before calling it quits. The glass shimmered for as long as it always did, and right when Connor was about to put the piece of mirror away, his heart dropped. A face appeared in the mirror, but it wasn't the person he was expecting. "Oh, Sea Dog, thank God it's you," Mother Goose said. "Listen, we need to talk. I need your help." Connor was so excited to finally be in contact with someone, he almost fell off the toilet. "Mother Goose, oh, it is so good to see your face." He was in hysterics. "If I had a gold coin every time someone said that, I would be in debt," she cracked. "Listen, I have come to talk to you about something very important." She seemed just as flustered and worried as he was, but Connor figured her concern would wait, compared to the news he had to share. "No, I have something to tell you that's more important," he said. "Something major has happened, and I need to tell someone in the fairy tale world about it." Mother Goose eyed him strangely. "Kid, are you in a bathroom?" she asked. "Because if so, I think you should maybe talk to a doctor about this, not me." "I'm in the bathroom because I'm trying to hide," Connor said. "I'm in Europe on a class trip. That was the only place I can get privacy." "Europe," Mother Goose said. "Okay, kid, calm down. Slowly tell me what's going on before you have an accident." Connor took a deep breath and started from the beginning. "I was in Germany for this thing with my principal and a couple other kids. The University of Berlin found 3 brand new fairy tales from the time capsule left by the Brothers Grimm. They included careful instructions not to publicize or publish the stories until 200 years later. We had a bunch of other people who went to the cemetery where the Brothers Grimms are buried, and there was a special reading of these stories. The first 2 weren't important, but I think the third one was a warning of disguise." "A warning," Mother Goose said. "Warning about what?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," he said. "The story was too similar to real life not to have a bigger purpose." "Tell me what the story is about," she prompted. "It was about a pair of brothers who told stories just like the Brothers Grimm. They got their stories from a fairy who lived in a secret castle, just like the Brothers Grimms got their stories from you and from Grandma and the other fairies. One day, a greedy king forced the brothers to provide them with a map to their secret castle so he could conquer it. A magical bird that also lived in the secret castle, who I'm assuming is supposed to be you, gave the brothers an enchanted map to give the king so that it would take him 200 years to get to the castle, leaving people and the magical creatures lots of time to prepare a defense. The brothers in the story were afraid of the magical bird would forget to warn the others in the castle about the approaching king, so they wrote a story about it, hoped the story would reach the secret castle before the king's army of thousands did." "Wait, can you say that last part again?" Mother Goose interrupted. "I said they hoped their story would reach the secret castle before the king's army of thousands did, in case the magical bird had forgotten to warn the others," Connor repeated. All the blood drained from Mother Goose's face, and her eyes drifted off into a fearful tense. "But it's impossible," she said to herself. "What's impossible?" Connor asked. "Does this story mean something to you? Because it sounds like something bad started 200 years ago, and the Brothers Grimms are warning everyone about it now." Mother Goose didn't respond. All she could do was shake her head from side to side as she thought about what he told her. "Mother Goose, is this story real?" Then I'm afraid something horrible is about to happen in the land of stories, and we need to stop it, he said. She finally looked up and made eye contact with him again. I'm afraid their story is based on something that is very real, she told him in a strict tone. Connor felt his heart descend deeper into his stomach. What happened? He asked. Mother Goose sighed and then told Connor a secret she had managed to keep herself for years, until this moment. 200 years ago in the other world, there's a man named Jacques Marquis, a general in the French Empire's Grand Army, he said. General Marquis was a smart man, but he knew the brothers Grimm stories about mystical creatures in the kingdoms were more than just fiction. He had followed them and discovered the truth about where their stories came from. He wanted to conquer the magnificent lands he read about and then name the French Empire. So he kidnapped the brothers Grimm and demanded they provide his army with the portal into the fairy tale world, or he would kill their family. And did they give him one? Connor asked. That's where I came in the story, Mother Goose said. I never gave them a map like the bird in the story. I told the brothers Grimm of a portal they could lead General Marquis and his army of 5,000 men to. But I bewitched the portal before the army arrived, so that it would take them 200 other world years to cross through and into the fairy tale world. And that was 200 years ago, Connor exclaimed. So why haven't they crossed into the fairy tale world yet? Because after the Enchantress was defeated, your grandmother closed the portal between the worlds. And just in the nick of time, Mother Goose said. Thank God she did, because it meant I never had to tell her about the approaching army. I love the other world so much, but I couldn't object to closing the portal since I knew I would prevent that awful meant to soldiers from entering our world. Didn't anyone wonder where a group of 5,000 soldiers disappeared to, Connor asked? No, because shortly after, in the winter of 1812, Napoleon the Grand Army also invaded Russia. Mother Goose explained. The French soldiers couldn't stand the cold, and the retreating Russian soldiers hadn't left them any crops or livestock to survive on. The death toll was catastrophic, and everyone assumed General Marquis and his men were among those that perished. Connor sighed in a breath of relief. Oh, that's wonderful news, he said. That means the army is still stuck in the portal and will never reach Land of Stories, right? He expected Mother Goose to confirm his belief, but instead her eyes drifted off again to another concerned gaze. The portal is closed permanently, isn't it, Connor asked. It was, Mother Goose said, but there is a chance the portal between the worlds may be reopened. How? Connor asked. Mother Goose knew the answer, but decided it wasn't her place to tell him yet. I can't tell you why or even that it will for certain. All I can tell you is that there is a chance, she repeated. And the only way we'll know for sure is we check whether or not the portal is working. If it can be opened from the other world side, that means it can be opened from on the Land of Story side as well, and the Grand Army may cross into the fairy tale world after all this time. Then tell me where it is. I'll check it myself, he pleaded. Absolutely not, Mother Goose said firmly. I still haven't forgiven myself for telling Alex about the Enchantress. I couldn't live with myself if I sent you off to a dangerous chase as well. Connor was so frustrated he wanted to throw the piece of mirror across the bathroom. He was still being treated like a child after all this time. Mother Goose raised a hand to silence him before he could argue. But I may know someone else who can tell you, he said, with a mischievous eyebrow raised. Who? Connor said. Someone in this world? Yes, she said. Where exactly in Europe are you? I'm at an airport in London, he said. This made Mother Goose extremely happy, and she made an exciting fist with her free hand. Terrific. I have a friend in London. It's not the Queen, I hope, Connor said. She'd be difficult to get to. No. The Queen and I haven't spoken in years, Mother Goose waved off the idea. This friend is very old, but has been confident of mine for a very long time. Who is he? He's more of a what than a who, Mother Goose explained. Find the lion in the Red Lion Brewery. Tell him I sent you, and he'll tell you everything you need to know. The lion from the Red Lion Brewery, Connor repeated, and to make sure he had heard correctly. Is he a real lion? He's a statue, Mother Goose said. He was the mascot at the brewery I spent most of the 1800s in. I met a lot of my closest drinking buddies there. Now, I only need to go before your sister catches me in a room. We shouldn't tell anyone else about this unless we know for certain the portal has been reopened. I don't want to dampen anyone's spirits around here if there's nothing to worry about. And what if it's reopened, Connor said. Mother Goose gulped. Then we're in big trouble, she said. Good luck, kid. Oh, and one more thing. Do you still have that poker chip I gave you? Yes, I take it everywhere with me, Connor said. Good. You'll need it, Mother Goose said. And then she faded from the piece of mirror in his hand. Connor's head was spinning, but he knew there was no time to waste. He quickly created a plan based on the task Mother Goose had given him. First, he had to sneak out of the airport to find a way into the city. Then he had to find the Red Lion Brewery and the lion it, ask it where the portal was and how to check whether it was still closed. The portal could be open from the other world side. Then that meant it was open in the fairy tale world, and the Grand Army would be moments away from crossing over. His plan seemed straightforward. He packed the piece of mirror to Betsy and left the stall, not wanting to waste another moment. However, his momentum came to a screeching halt as soon as he realized he wasn't alone in the bathroom. Bree? Connor said in horror. Bree was standing just outside the stall and judging from the bewildered expression on her face. She had heard every word of his and Mother Goose's conversation. What are you doing in the men's bathroom? They started boarding early, Bree said. Mrs. Peters wanted me to check on you. When I got close to the bathroom, I heard voices. I know you don't have a cell phone, so I came in to see who you were talking to. Now, after saying that out loud, I realized how many privacy laws I just broke. How much of my conversation did you hear? Connor asked. Enough, said Bree blankly. Connor had no idea what to say to her. Well, thank you for coming up, checking on me, but I'm not going home, he said. I gather, Bree said. Please don't tell Mrs. Peters where I'm going, Connor pleaded to her. There is someone in London I really need to meet. It's really important. Bree's face finally returned to normal. She quietly bobbed her head and she contemplated the situation. I won't tell anyone, Bree, she said, because I'm going with you. Connor shook his head in disbelief. What? You can't go with me. You don't even know what's going on. Bree crossed her arms. I've known something was going on since the plane ride to Germany. Your sister disappeared last year with almost no explanation. You knew the plots of the fairy tales that hadn't seen the light of day in 200 years, and I just caught you somehow communicating with a woman called Mother Goose about an army invading another dimension. Connor closed his eyes. There is no coming back from it now. Though that in my best guess is that you are somehow connected to the fairy tale world, and now you have to make sure that an army from the 1800s isn't going to cross into that world and put your sister and grandmother in jeopardy. Did I miss anything? Bree said the whole thing in one breath without blinking. Connor was stunned. Reading all those mystery novels had paid off. Okay, I guess the dots aren't that hard to connect, Connor said, but there's no way you're going with me. Do you know how much trouble you get into? Bree tipped her head back and grunted toward the ceiling. I could live with trouble. I'll tell you what I can't live with. Hearing one more conversation between the book huggers about a boy band or a fictitious relationship from a novel. I have 3 younger sisters. I went to Germany to escape all that and to have a European adventure. So far, it seems you're the only person who can supply that, and you could probably use help, so I'm going with you, like it or not. Connor's mouth and eyes were wide open. It was the most exciting he had ever seen Bree get. How are you taking all of this so well, he asked. Don't you think the idea of another dimension seems insane? Not at all, Bree said. I'm a writer too, Connor, and the reason I write is because I always believe there is more than just people are willing to believe. You're just the first person to prove it to me. Connor recognized the excitement in her eyes. He had seen it every day in his sister's eyes after their first trip into the land of stories. Now that Bree knew the truth, how could Connor tell her she couldn't go with him? All right, You can come, Connor told him, as long as you promise never to share with another soul anything you found out or anything you might see. Bree slowly nodded, smiling the biggest smile ever. I promise, she said, and Connor knew he could trust her. Good. Now let's sneak out of the airport, he said. They peered out in the men's restroom and glanced at the gate, where the principal and schoolmates stood. The five of them were impatiently waiting for Connor and Bree to return before joining the line abroad to board on the plane. Mrs. Peters scanned the lounge, trying to see where they had gone, then looked down at her watch, and Connor and Bree took it as a cue. They held on to their luggage as tightly as they could and bolted out of the bathroom, running down the terminal before she looked up. They followed the exit signs went into customs. We got this. Just follow my lead, Bree said. They got in line, keeping their heads down in case Mrs. Peters came looking for them. When it was Bree's turn, she walked up to customs officer in the booth and presented her passport. Are you for business or pleasure? The officer asked her. Pleasure, Bree said casually. I come to visit my aunt and see a few shows in the West End. She was good at this deception thing. The customs officer stamped her passport and sent Bree on her way. Connor went next, confident he had nothing to worry about. Are you for business or pleasure? The officer asked him. Pleasure, Connor replied. I came for the food. The customs officer flinched and looked at him awkwardly. The food? He asked. Bree slapped her head against her forehead. Connor wanted to put his whole leg in his mouth. Of all the things he said, he picked possibly the only thing Great Britain wasn't known for. Connor panicked, thinking fast. You never heard of the food? He went on. They're the only greatest singing quartet of chefs turned tenors on the planet. They have a concert in the Buckingham Coliseum. Here, let me give you one of their albums. Connor reached in his suitcase, but the customs officer held up a hand to stop him. Please don't, he said. He stamped Connor's passport and sent him on his way too. Connor had never been so thankful to be perceived as just a stupid kid. Bree was appalled by Connor's stunt. Buckinghamshire Villington? She whispered. Are you out of your mind? How are we supposed to save another dimension? You can't even get out of an airport. Give me a break, obviously. I'm under a lot of pressure, Connor whispered back. They made it outside the airport and looked around at the sea of cars, taxis, and buses under the pickup zone. How are we going to get to central London? Bree asked. How are we old enough to take a taxi by ourselves? Connor looked down the curb and saw something that gave him an idea. A large group of obnoxious American teenagers was boarding a bus. They were looked after by only one chaperone that Connor could see that she was practically pulling her hair out trying to manage. Everyone settle down and get on the bus, the chaperone screamed. I have your parents' phone numbers and I will use them. Connor gestured for Bree to follow him. Keep your head down. I have an idea, he said. They both looked at the ground and joined the line of students boarding the bus. The line was moving so quickly the chaperone couldn't keep up with checking their names on the clipboard and finally just gave up. Connor and Bree boarded the bus effortlessly and took a seat in the very back. All right, that was a good one, Bree said. It almost makes up for Buckinghamshire Villington. Thanks, Connor said. This should get us into the city without a hitch. The other teenagers aboard the bus were so busy taunting each other and taking pictures of themselves, they didn't even notice the strangers in the back. The bus pulled away from the airport and headed into town. All right, I want to hear the whole story and don't skip any details, Bree said to Connor. About what? He asked. Everything I need to know before venturing out into this adventure with you. About you, your sister, that goose lady, and this dimension we're about to save. Connor didn't know where to begin. Okay, but it's a long story, he warned. Great, Bree said. Long stories are my favorite. Connor figured there was no use in keeping anything from her now. He told Bree his and Alex's whole story, starting when they were magically transported to the land of stories for the first time, and ending with their last goodbye when the portal between the two worlds was closed. Bree hung on every word he said. It felt so therapeutic for Connor to talk to someone about it besides his family. He was very glad Bree had insisted on coming on this new escapade of his. And as Connor knew all too well, adventures were always best when there was someone to share them with. Alright guys, that is the end of chapter 9. Again, thank you so much for the support. And again, don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more from the Land of Stories of Grimm Warning and more stories to come. Again, thank you so much for the support. I hope you enjoy the reading and hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!